Welcome to another episode of That's Some Crazy Shit with Kelly and James. I am one of your hosts, Kelly, and my co-host is my boy, my confidant, James.
What's up, Kelly?
What's happening? James, it has been a crazy week, and I'm so glad to be able to talk to you again today. You know, some days be like, wow.
It's true. Huh? You're like, man, serious. Can we just end it already?
Can we just not do this right now? So I am glad that we get a chance to sit down and hash out some crazy shit today, because guess what? We're on a roll. We have another guest, Joy Elaine. And want me to tell you about her?
Yeah, tell me something about her, girl.
All right, so Joy is an author and she's a speaker, and she is one of the foremost experts in the world of the Ashtar command. She also knows about mythical creatures. She says that dragons are real and fairies are real, and she practices a thing called Serenity vibration healing technique that she'll tell us about. And about shifting and vibration and energy, and how she has visited other worlds, and she's met fairies and dragons. She's written some books called the Joy Chronicles, and she'll probably talk about those as well.
It's interesting. This is yet another guest that's talking about frequencies and vibrations.
Yes, and how it's a real thing.
Yeah, so it is.
It's a real thing. And so I love that she has decided to come on with us, and I'm excited to bring her out. So if you're ready, we'll just get right to it.
Let's do it.
All right. Welcome to the podcast, Joy Elaine. Joy, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and being a part of That's Some Crazy Shit with Kelly and James. Welcome. How are you?
Fine. Sitting here looking out at the snow.
James, what's going on? How are you, James?
Not much. Same thing. Glad to have you in town, my friend.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Joy, thank you so much for joining us. I'm excited to talk to you about all the things that you do. And I wanted to really start off by just, thanking you for your time. And you've written these wonderful books, the Joy Chronicles. And that's where I kind of wanted to start with you, is start there, and then we can maybe ask questions. But I feel like your books are a really important a part of who you are and what you do. And so I know there's like 7 of them, right?
Well, there's 6 that are published, but there's 4 more in this first series that aren't published yet. So yeah, there's a lot of books, a lot of information.
So tell us about the Joy Chronicles. So tell us about them.
They are my experiences with ascended and galactic masters, dragons, fairies, and the Ashtar command. These individuals, the galactic masters, you would think of them as ETs. They look human. Except Osiris, he's a teal color, so he doesn't look too human, but most of them look like, very handsome people that you would meet. Well, you probably wouldn't meet them on the street because they have the long hair, many of them, and they wear robes, so they would stick out. But the information that I've gotten from them is so fascinating and so magical that I felt that I had to write these books to tell people about first of all, what's the future for Earth? And it's really fascinating, and it's wonderful. Okay, it's not the Armageddon stuff that used to be going around that we were all going to blow up. That was a reality that we decided, heck, let's not do that, right? So when I found out, right. So when I found out the magic that's awaiting us, it feels like magic because it's things that no one has ever dreamed of that's possible for Earth. I wanted to write about that. I wanted to tell people about that, but I also wanted to give them a chance to, if they're interested, joining in the work that I'm doing with the Ashtar Command and these masters. Because people of Earth, we're the ones that live here. We're the ones that get to make the decisions. We get to vote, right? All these galactic masters, they're wonderful beings, but they are the ruling of the galactic councils is, you can't advance a species beyond their readiness. So they can't, and they never will just come down here and quote fix us. That is totally disempowering. Now, some of the galactic races that are not non-dual, that would be an open doorway for them. If enough people decided, hey, come down here and help us, that would give them a doorway to come back. And that would not be a good thing, because these races are dual plane. And I'll talk about non-dual and dual. Hope that's one of the questions you asked me. But anyway, why not take part?
I was thinking that question in my head.
Yeah. Why not take part in what's happening? Why not be a powerful force for changing the earth for the better? That's what our opportunity that we have. And we're the only ones that can do it, really.
So it's not too late for us, Joy.
No. People are waking up finally. There's enough light workers, people like you and me, people interested in, why are we here? What's our real purpose? That we're woken up to that. The writing these books is my main purpose. That, and to live as a non-dual being on Earth in my physical body. So how about talking about non-dual and dual? Can I talk about
perfect.
that? All right. So we know what duality is. Earth has been a dual plane world ever since her inception, ever since her beginning. Humans have lived in duality for our entire existence. We know that there's struggle, right? We know that there's death, that there's aging, that there's disease, that there's good things, there's love, there's, there's having children, there's prosperity, there's peace, there's war. It's all the black, the white, the opposite, the teeter-totter back and forth, all right? So that's how we've lived for me, for 75 years, right? But when I found out that there was another option, and I found that out in my first book, Path of Sweetness, when I talked with this Ashtar commander who'd been observing Earth for a couple thousand years, I thought, oh my gosh, a new paradigm. All right, so what's non-duality? Okay, non-dual people, first of all, they never lie. It's just not in their nature. They don't even really know how to do it. They don't know how to scheme and plot and all the things that people in duality have mastered over the years. The treachery, the trickery, that's not their nature. They're above board, they're honest, they don't die. I'll say that again, they don't die. And they can manifest things or change their appearance instantly. Now, perpetually regenerating body was very interesting to me because, 75, I thought, well, the old plan was, okay, I'm going to try to stay healthy as long as I can, and then I'm going to eventually get too sick to continue, and then I'll die. That's the old paradigm, right? That's what everybody's always done. So this is a new possibility of not doing that. How exciting is that? Could you keep that a secret if you knew that was the truth? I can't. I keep talking about it, and it's like, my sons go, Mom, my younger son said, Mom, everybody dies. I said, well, that's the old way. Now, there are some people that I talk to, they get it. They know that's a possibility. And I think you two maybe are on that page. So how do you do that? Right?
That was going to be my next question.
Yeah.
How do you do that? How do you do that?
Well, first of all, you don't do it by doing a job that you hate every day of your life. You don't do it by lying or tricking or stealing or cheating. Full assistance on my webpage that will help you with clearing up your life, right? Because as we're moving into more and more possibilities of becoming non-dual, that's what Earth is doing now. That's why it's kind of, things are shaken up, right? It's not, and Gia herself told me it's a little bit difficult right now for people because of her shifting. And it's kind of a circle. She's shifting because we're shifting, and we're shifting because she's shifting. moving up into the higher planes, all right? So that becomes easier and easier to be more like a non-dual, just naturally. Thank heavens, you know. Now, I've been working at it for a couple decades. I've been studying with Ascended Masters. I've been doing meditations. I've been several hours a day. I do certain exercises. So it's been my focus to be kind of a leader in moving into non-duality. And I expect to do that in this coming year. So what happens then? Nobody knows, because it's never been done before. The Masters say, we can kind of guess, you know, but it's going to take probably 3 years for you to fully develop your abilities like teleportation, telepathy, moving your body from one dimension to the next. I'm doing that now energetically, but I'm going to be able to do that with my physical body. How exciting is that? Can you think about...
That is exciting.
Yeah. Can you think about thinking about something that you want and it's right there? You have it. You want a diamond in my hand? I got a diamond in my hand. All right. So think about how Earth will be when people can manifest instantly. Now, first of all, they're not going to be able to do that with the mindset that some people have about hatred. You know, killing, all those lower vibration things just block you. You know, if you haven't forgiven yourself, if you don't love yourself, you got to do that. You know, start loving yourself. Start treating yourself with respect, because it starts with you. And start listening to your heart. Those are the two main things I would say to help you move to non-duality. Listen to your heart. Follow what your heart says. Instead of, you know, the cranium brain, a wonderful computer, helps us survive, you know, heartbeat, all that sort of stuff kind of automatically happens. But the cranium brain does not have access to the wisdom that your heart does. So... following your heart.
I like
yourself.
that though.
Yeah. So and the
so are there? Go ahead.
No, and the books, the work that we do in the books is described. The work that I do with the Ashtar Command and with these Galactic Masters in Book 2 is described. And in the back of each book, there's a short paragraph that describes how you can take part, how you can be part of this movement. It's going to be a wave, an ascension wave and we've had those in the past, but this is going to be a big one. That's why everybody's here now, because they knew at some level, hey, this is the time to be alive on Earth. So it tells you easy things that you can do to just actually step with your energy body onto an Ashtar Command ship. That happens in the first book. And you'll be time traveling, because you'll be moving back to 2014. So you can give yourself gifts from the past. If you're helping Earth, you're helping yourself. Does that make sense?
That does.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and that was really one of the reasons that I started with energy work, was first to clean up my own stuff. You know, I have issues. I had divorce. I had grief. I have, you know, parents that have died, children that don't get along, you know, all the kinds of things that people go through. And I thought, I need help, you know, and I just started looking for what would help me, and I came across Serenity Vibration Healing in 2003, and I immediately noticed when I started using that modality, I noticed energy shifts within myself. Things that used to be difficult were not so hard, and I've been able to clear up a lot of things that were big issues for me. So it's a wonderful modality. It's helped me to be able to do the energy work that I do to bring forth the information in the books. So they kind of all works together, you know. You start getting your life, getting rid of your stuff, your shit, I guess you could say, getting rid of that or rewriting it. And then you start lifting on your own. You start just feeling better. You start waking up and thinking, instead of thinking, oh my God, another day, you think, oh my gosh, another day. You know? That's how life is supposed to be. It's more like being a child and playing instead of just struggling our way through life. It's going to get easier. I'm going to encourage you. It's just going to get easier if you don't do anything but just enjoy your life. You know, that's important.
So if you wanted to learn the technique that you talked about, where would you go to learn it?
I have a website. it's different from my author website. My author website is joyelaine.com, and it has a lot of the SVH work on it, and that's written into my blog articles to help you advance. That's free. There's no charge, okay? Because helping you helps me. Helping you helps the earth. We're all one thing anyway, right? All one big soup of good stuff. So the other website, which is my Serenity Vibration Healing website, or SVH for short, because Serenity Vibration Healing is kind of more than a mouthful. Anyway, that website is thejoyoflife.info. And it offers you, and there's a charge because I've spent a lot of work on this. This is something I've studied for a couple of decades almost. It offers you clearing work. Clearing your karma, clearing old contracts, clearing death doors, enlightenment techniques, wonderful processes that you can pay for. There are teachers that will teach the modality over the phone. And if people are interested, they just email me from my website or from my Joy of Life site, and I will give them that contact information. There's a main site, serenityvibrationhealing.com, where they can look up teachers, but I have a few suggestions for ones that I've found to be very good. But, if you want to just purchase the processes and start cleaning up yourself that way, you can. And then working with that, my author website on the front page has a thing called the Golden Ticket, which empowers you to use Serenity Vibration Healing to start manifesting the ideal scenarios for your life. And it's in any area you choose. It's a wonderful process. I use it every day myself still, even though I'm a practitioner and I have access to all the deeper tools. It's still a very powerful tool to help you start. You start thinking you want something, and then you think, oh, I don't know if I can have that. I've never had that before. I've never been able to do that before. Can I really have it? And then, of course, the universe goes, well, we can't give it to you unless you really want it, unless you really allow yourself to have it. So, all that genetic programming, all those hundreds of thousands of years of you're not good enough, you can't do it, nobody in our family has ever done it. You want to get rid of that stuff because it's just it's not valid anymore. It doesn't fit who we are becoming.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I would agree with you on that. And so each of the 6 books right now in the series is a book about the experiences that you have had over time until the present time, until now?
Well,
starting from
2014. So that was when I first stepped aboard with my energy body. My physical body sat on my sofa, and I stepped energetically to this astral command ship, and it's channeled information, and it is chronological. So some people want to start with book 3, and I say, okay, whatever book you want to start with, but you're in the 3rd book in the story. All right, so first book, you meet the Astral Command. You find out the cool things that are possible for Earth. You meet a dragon. No, you don't meet a dragon in the first book. You meet a fairy and a genie in the first book. Second book, more action, because you meet a lot of different stuff about the fairies, and you meet the Dragon King, and I've got a council that has people like John F. Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe and King Arthur and Guinevere and a lot of the Egyptian people that we thought were gods. Or Thor steps in once in a while. So you just get to meet. It's like this most magical, just hodgepodge of these wonderful individuals that I am privileged to work with. I'm usually visit the council a couple times a week. The first book, I'm just on the Astral Command ship. Second book, we form a council that's on the 10th dimension, the moon, and one inside the earth, in inner earth. And these beings are marvelous. They're the ascended versions of them. So it's John F. Kennedy, and he sounds just like he did when he was alive, but he's like an ascended master. So he doesn't have the agenda or the genetic stuff that he had when he was in a physical body, right? He's like Jesus, really. So he's dead. There's a lot of dead people on the council, but there's a lot of live people like Osiris. Remember I mentioned him, the teal guy who's bald. Isis, Hathor, Horus, Thoth, the Egyptian god of wisdom. He's pictured with a bird head sometimes. They are real people. They're the ETs. They're not dead. They've never died. They didn't, and Osiris and Isis and Tot did not have parents. They weren't created that way. And then people go, what about God? People will ask me, well, there is a God. And he, she, I use the term he just for convenience, but the God that the masters talk about, they call the Great One. And is a perfect blend of masculine and feminine energy. I've spoken a couple of times with God. It's he likes to look like Moses because he thinks that's what people expect him to look like, with the beard and with the white hair. But he could look any way, that he wanted.
Long hair.
Yeah, just trying to make people comfortable with the fact that they're talking to God. Of course, that guy that Neil Donald Walsh did a lot of that, and that's been pretty well accepted. So people for me, like I'm in Midwest, that was something that was just not very much supported. Oh, you're gonna talk to God? Well, yeah, sure. It's so I've still got some work to do on that because I don't do that very often. I'm still being in progress. Let's put it that way. I'm still developing.
Right.
Like we all are.
It sounds absolutely fascinating. And so I noticed that in your books that you had talked about cryptids like fairies and dwarves, and you had mentioned dragons.
Right. So
you're saying that dragons are real and still exist today.
Right. Well,
was that on our same dimension?
Well, no. What happened was we actually killed them off twice in our history. And I was talking with Gia. She's an embodiment of a representative of Earth, right? Earth Mother. She's on our council. And I was asking her about what creatures, we've all the stuff in mythology, the centaurs, the satyrs, the phoenix, the flying horses. What about those things? She said, well, a lot of them have become extinct, or they were stolen from Earth, or we killed them off. That's kind of, if you think about it, that's what humans have tried to do in the past. They see something scary or dangerous, and they think, well, let's kill that, or let's capture that, or let's have that in our zoo. Well, and I said, what about dragons? And Tonas, actually, I think maybe even in the first book, the dragons did exist. They were created. They're on other worlds, okay, but for Earth, they were created in ancient times because the Nishits from non-dual worlds would come here to study. Why would they come to Earth as a dual world? They left aside their abilities on their non-dual worlds, and they came here to try to manifest those abilities here, right? To be as non-dual. So some of them studied for millions of years, right? And one of the projects was to create one of their homework things. Was to create creatures, right? So they would take something from their
as
world.
Homework.
Right, like homework. They would take something from their world, like a creature, and then they tweak it. And they created dragons. Here. Well, we killed that bunch of dragons off. And then they came back in, and then we killed that bunch off. So I said, I want to have dragons again. And she said, here's something that's one of the coolest things I found out in the book too. The fairies. All the things that we killed, and I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about animals and trees and plants and rutabagas and all kinds of vegetation and all kinds of animals. Anything that we kill before it's time it would naturally die, they take it into their garden. And it stays there in its enhanced energy form. And like, for example, there's a big place where the cows go, and when it's time for them to die naturally, they just lay down and they just turn into sparkles. They have grass to eat and water to drink, and the fairy that I talked with, Shalai, said, they don't have to do it, but they like to do it, so we let them. All right. So that was such a thing for my heart, to know that all the trees that I've loved that have been cut down, and all the animals that I've loved that have died, have a presence in the fairy gardens, right? So I said, so Gia, working with the template that the fairies use to do that, we were allowed, I said, I'd like those back. And since I'm living here on Earth and I can claim that, I get to have it, right? I'm good at asking for what I want. So we brought back the dragons. There were 4 million of them. We learned our lesson. We didn't bring them back to where humans are. Can you imagine the chaos that would have cost, right? To have a dragon all of a sudden.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I could see jets dive bombing them, and I don't know. It just would have been a disaster. So they were brought back off dimension from where humans are, and that's where the fairies exist too. Because take a fairy out of its garden, and at least in the way it used to be, and they die. All right. So dragons came back. Centaurs came back, satyrs came back, mer people were here already, and some of them were restored. I don't know all the waned horses. I don't know all the things that came back because he had said, well, it's for you to discover. So
they're in another dimension.
Off
of
dimensions,
Earth?
yes, off dimensions. Yeah, fairies.
Wow.
But at one time, they've all been here at one time.
Yes. Fairies have never left because, and this is what Gia told me, without fairies, Earth would be dead. It would be just a mud ball. They support every green thing. So if you've got anything green, you got fairies. And they each have their garden. There's fairy gardens all over Earth. There's not just one garden. And every garden has anywhere from 50 to 60 to 70 fairies or more now that... Anyway, so there's no fairies in Antarctica. There's no fairies in the ocean. But there are fairies in the Arctic Circle because there's still green stuff up there. And there's no fairies in the Sahara Desert because it's just not, even the oasis are not big enough to support a fairy garden. But 2 inches tall, beautiful, and happy. Fairies are just joy. They like to sing. They like to send us love. They are supporting us, and they are supporting humans more than they were ever allowed to. So yes, you can, if you go outside when it's nice and put your feet in the grass and lay down, you can talk to a fairy. She'll come up and whisper in your ear, just say, "I'd like to talk to a fairy." Some people see them. They've got that special sight. And here's the cool thing: when we're non-dual, we will be with the fairies. The dragons will be with us. We'll see all these wonderful things. I'm so excited. My older son said, "Mom, when I see a dragon, I will be totally on board with you." They got to see it to believe it. Well,
now, Joy, you talked about fairies and elves.
Yeah.
And since I like cryptids, I was going to say, so how does things like they talk about Bigfoot or Loch Ness Monster, these things are just on other dimensions?
Well, the thing about Bigfoot and Loch Ness, they have the ability to shift back and forth between dimensions. That's why it's very difficult to find them. I was actually on a Loch Ness tour, and the guide said, we've calculated how many fish disappear from this lake on a daily basis, and it's a tremendous amount of fish. I couldn't even remember the figure, but he said there's got to be something here that's eating them. And Osiris said, well, there's actually about 30 Nessies, and they are able to shift from this dimension to just enough so that people don't see them. They're smart. They're very wily. Bigfoot, I think, is the same thing. They're shy. I haven't had a chance to find out anything more than that they're not harmful. They're just curious about what humans are doing. I did find out something recently about the Yeti. I asked Commander Asher, I said, well, what about the Yeti? He said, well, they had a spaceship that crashed here a long, long, long time ago, and they have degenerated. They're not as capable as they were. I don't know how many of them are. I don't know, what their agenda was. He said people see spaceships a lot of the time, and they're so curious about what is happening with Earth, because Earth is the planet to watch for. Earth is, we're the youngest species in all of creation, in all of the 47 universes. Humans are the youngest species. And We're the most exciting because we're developing so rapidly. Third dimension, for all of Earth's existence, it was third dimension until 2009. What happened in 2009? Humanity finally woke up enough that they started thinking a little bit higher thoughts about, it wasn't always just an eye for an eye, tooth for tooth. It wasn't always just, get ahead, the survival of the species. It was enough energy lifted that that dimension was able to release and drift away. Third dimension's gone, okay? Now, that's not to say that people still, some of us don't have those, oh, I'm going to get you, I'm going to get even with you, all those kinds of lower thoughts. That's still a possibility because we've had our ancestors, think of how many years we've had of let's get even, right? So fourth dimension's also gone. From 2009 to 2015, we lost another dimension. So where are we now? We're in a blend of fifth and sixth dimension. Now, it kind of frustrates me when people get so head up about the fifth dimension. The fifth dimension is not that big of a deal. It's going to drop off too. Gia right now, just a couple of days ago, I spoke with her, and she's focused on lifting up to sixth dimension. So when enough of us start cleaning up our acts and start being who we're meant to be, fifth dimension will go too. Okay, what's the final objective? Well, the final objective for complete new non-duality for Earth and everything on Earth is eighth dimension. All right. And what happens after that? Eighth dimension.
And so that's our peak?
No. But it's going to be like heaven. I mean, can you imagine? You just have the body you want. You have the perfect body you want. I'm going to look like I'm 23 because I've seen myself looking that way. Everything is pristine. There's no pollution in eighth dimension. You have crystalline cities of light. If you can manifest things instantly, what will you not need? You won't have prisons, you won't have judges, lawyers, doctors, you won't have huge farmlands, you won't have any of the stuff that we have now. It's pristine land, pristine water, pristine air. The dragons are back, the fairies are with us. We're having a ball, okay? The Atlanteans are on the 10th dimension. And we have a total, and this is just for Earth. Other worlds look at it differently. We're very linear, so we like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There's actually 25 dimensions. But I don't care. I don't care about those. I mean, I'm willing to spend 1,000 years in the eighth dimension because it's going to be so much fun. Now, seventh dimension, you can be as non-dual in seventh dimension. That's my goal.
But these dimensions, and you say that we're a blend, it's not a physical place. Is it an energy or is it a vibration?
Yes. Yeah. I think let me read the definition of a dimension real quick to you. Layers of space that interconnect with form and vibrational frequencies. So it is about a vibration, and that was why I was really attracted to Serenity Vibration Healing, because I'm a musician and I'm all about vibration. So the higher the more light you become, the higher vibration you are, the faster you vibrate, you become, you could be invisible. You could be invisible. You could be in eighth dimension, and some of us will still be able to go back to seventh dimension and choose to appear physically. But, it's, like I said before, no human has ever done what a group of us are doing, and all of us will eventually do. So the masters are kind of like, well, we're going to wait and see. There's about 50 of us.
So how many of you are there, Joy, that are going to
Well, there's light workers all over the world. So I don't know about other modalities, but I know that there's about 50 and eventually a couple hundred of Serenity Vibration Healing folks that will be doing this. So we'll be moving into non-duality. And that will make it easier. It's like being the first through the jungle with the machete.
You're trailblazing for us.
Yeah, it's not been easy, and a lot of my life has been devoted to a lot of energy work. So, but it'll make it easy for everybody else. Once a few people do it, it'll be like, it's like climbing Mount Everest. For all of eternity, nobody had ever climbed Mount Everest until Edmund Hillary.
Yeah.
His Tibetan guide, first person to climb it. And then, since then, hundreds, if not thousands of people have climbed Mount Everest. So it's somebody did it, and then it's easier. Like Roger Bannister ran the, 3-minute mile, 4-minute mile, I don't know. And then now that's just old hat. Everybody can, people can do it. So it's like breaking the way for everybody. And of course, I want to be first. I want to put my foot over the line first. So it's exciting. It's an exciting time to be alive. And if you want to be, I think the thing about the books is, even if you don't do any of the work in them, you'll start remembering how magical life is. It really is. I'd forgotten that. I was going along. I was doing my work. I was getting up in the day and going to school and teaching, and kind of forgot. I didn't really know why I was here. It's doing what I'm doing now is why I'm here, and it took me until I was in my 70s to figure that out. But it's never too late. Why are you here? You're here to be part of this big fun thing that's happening now. And we need to look at it as fun, because if you look at it like it's not fun, you're just contributing to the problem. That's been my biggest challenge.
Right, you got to put that positive energy out there.
Right. That has been my biggest challenge. I'll find myself thinking about the things I don't like, and boy, it's hard to stop that. It is hard to stop that.
That's why I have Kelly. That's why I have Kelly.
You find yourself looking at that. Oh, you're looking at this bill that's come due, and you're thinking, oh, where am I going to get the money for that? Or you're thinking, is this election thing ever going to get straightened out? And then you think, no, you can't be the frustration could just contribute more frustration. You just got to send love to everybody involved. Just send them love and just let it go. See that it's going to work out and it's going to be good.
So, Joy, I have a question, because you had mentioned the Galactic Command. Are there other organizations like the Galactic Command, or is the Galactic Command the only one of its kind?
The Ashtar Command is what you're talking about, right?
The Ashtar Command, yes.
Yeah. I know that there are other groups, but I don't know anything about them other than I don't know if they're non-dual or dual. I know that the Ashtar Command is the only non-dual group of starship people that I know of. In book 1, there were 86 million ships parked above Earth, just kind of watching us, right? Now there's triple that number, because they are now in all the other universes, assisting as the Galactic Councils of Light. They are underneath the Galactic Councils of Light, okay? They don't just hop onto a planet and say, here we are, we're coming to help you. That's not... Remember, we talked about that before. That's totally disempowering to people. Mm-hmm. Our job is to clean up Earth on our own, And so, if you see a spaceship, it's probably not the Ashtar Command, because they hide. They hide. Now, some of the worlds.
So, what are the ones that people are seeing, Joy?
They're mostly dual
What
planes.
are the?
Like, they're Pleiadians and other groups like that. They're just spying on Earth. They're just curious to see what's going on here. The Pleiadians would love to have a chance to come back here, but so far we've been able to keep them off. See, the Pleiadians, the Anunnaki, and there were, I think, 4 or 5 other dual plane races were the ones that involved in creating early humans to be slaves. They wanted people to mine the gold.
Genetically, they created us?
Yes, right. They used some of their DNA to create humans. Now, these early humans were not like us at all. They were they were stupid. They had enough smarts to not kill themselves, just walk off a cliff or something. But they were programmed to die at the age of around 32. So they were just like beasts of burden. They didn't have souls at first. And when they died, they were just burned. They were just, oh, there goes another one, just burn it. So they were like beasts. They were just labor for those groups, because they didn't want to dig gold. They didn't want to mine crystals for themselves. They wanted it done. So then what happened after thousands of years? I don't know how many thousands of years. The non-dual plane individuals, a few of them are able to see the future. All right. They can travel through time. And they saw what humanity had the potential to become if they had some more elevated genetics. So they were able to contribute a little bit of their genetics. Now, they would never have done that. They would never have been involved in creating the original humans as slaves, because that's just not non-dual people. They don't have slaves. They don't do that sort of thing. But in order to help develop humans, they did contribute some of their genetics. So that's why some of us think, well, we're starseeds. We're from Arcturus, we're from Andromeda, we're from Sirius, etc., Lyra. Those are non-dual worlds, and we do have, many of us do have some of those genetics. That was enough to humans to develop more genetic material, and finally they did have souls. They finally developed souls about 120,000 years ago. And here's what happened when that happened. The Galactic Council of Light said, everybody off. Nobody can interfere with these humans anymore. So remember I said people were here studying from other worlds. They were studying to become masters. Everybody had to leave. And then here's the catch that the Pleiadians were able to negotiate with the Councils of Light. They said, well, some of these people have our genetics. We want to be able to monitor them. And so for 120,000 years, the Pleiadians have been abducting people. Why? Well, that was originally
they're the guys that they're monitoring us.
Monitoring. And I said to that's in one of my recent blogs. I said to Commander Ashtar, he said, well, they don't really need to do that anymore. I mean, 103,000 years, the humans haven't changed that much. Well, they've changed, but they really don't need to do it. But if they stop, the Galactic Council will forbid them to start again. See, so please don't ask the Pleiadians to come and help us. You know, I'm sure that there are some lovely Pleiadians. I know that they're probably like Buddha-like Pleiadians, but there are also a bunch of them that have been enslaving humans, or abducting humans for 120,000 years. They're like Earth. The Pleiades are a dual plane world. All right, so they're going to have, just like we do, they're going to have those wonderful people that want to help, and then they're going to have the people that want to just take over.
So do you think they have anything to do with the mutilation of animals like cattle? Is that them too?
I haven't asked about that, so I can't tell you. I don't.
And what are they doing with these people they're abducting?
Well, guess what? You can take the woman's eggs and code some of them so that they are able to abduct in the next generation.
So they're tracking the lineage.
Yeah, right. So that woman's got that egg, and when that egg is born, then that child is able to be abducted. Now there's a way to get around that, and it's on my level 1 on my Joy of Life site. It's called galactic interference or something like that. It prevents that the code never gets put on the woman's egg, so that they never have been abducted. If you had that, it's very traumatic. A lot of people don't remember it. I said, well, how can? Asher said they were abducting hundreds of thousands of people a year, and I said, well, how can that be? You know, why don't more people say it? He said, because it happens when they're asleep, and it's such a dream-like experience that they just kind of discount it. They just, that can't be. You know, they don't want to acknowledge it, or they don't even remember it when they wake up. So it was just.
And they might not even comprehend what's happening.
What happened? I just thought that was really icky. I don't want to talk about that anymore.
Wow.
Okay. Well, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
that is fascinating, though.
Yeah. Well, you know, the Anunnaki were part of it too, and the masters wouldn't tell me any other races because they didn't want us to know. They didn't want us to know those names so that we wouldn't be able to ask them to come and help us. You know, it's people looking for the easy way out.
So a way we can actually get rid of them, Joy. I don't know if I want to say get rid of them, but I mean the more positive energy we put out,
right,
that kind of will help them
and
stay away, right?
attend to our own messes, right? It's our job to fix the oceans. It's our job to clean up the atmosphere. It's our job to make right the things that have not been so loving to Earth, you know. It's not anybody else's responsibility.
It's our mess.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you're right that more and more people are getting on board with that way of thinking. And, you know, you can kind of feel the shift, you know, where people are starting to become more positive about things.
The the groups that I work with told me that Earth is shifting from a sexual planet to a heart planet. Now, it doesn't mean that there won't be sex, but it'll be more loving. You could imagine if we all loved ourselves and treated everyone with love, how wonderful the world would be, especially the animals. You know, the animals are already there, you know. They got it. They're just love. If we've got so many animals that come back with soul to help their owners, and you know, don't always treat them like we should. So
Right.
it's all about love. It's really about love.
It is. Joy, I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us. Again, if somebody was interested in the Serenity Vibration Healing, what is that website again?
thejoyoflife.info.
thejoyoflife.info. And then your books is joyelaine.com, correct?
Yes, right. And there's a lot of SVH work on the Joy Elaine side, as I've mentioned. There's the blog has lots of work to help you clearing self-love, coronavirus. There's a shield in there for coronavirus and the Ashtar command blog. So, you know, there's lots of, I think, great reading. There's information about dragons and fairies and the masters that I'm working with, and I want to just share as much as I can with people, because the more people know, the more empowered they are, the more they're able to make decisions with clarity. Because, you know, if we're starting to create faster and faster, you want to create with what you really want. You don't want to start creating disasters like we have in the past. You know, we start focused on the negative stuff, and that starts popping up in your life. Once that starts happening, you better wake up. You want to create what you want, you know? And that's that ideal scenario is really powerful to help you with that, to clean up that stuff that you don't want and let it go and start manifesting the good things that you're choosing for your life.
And when will the 7th book be available?
Well, it's done in rough form. I'm looking for a publisher at this point, because I want the books to be more widely spread than they are. So I'm not really pushing that book until I just finished the rewrite of book 6. I'm really pleased about it. I'm going to have offer it on Kindle for free in March. I just got to offering the 5th book free last weekend. So then I'll start back at the beginning again and start offering those books free on Kindle. First book is only 99 cents on Kindle. Second book is $2.99, third book is $3.99, and I think the 4th book is $6.99 on Kindle. So they're really affordable. I wanted people to be able to get the information and just have fun. Just start being excited about your life.
Put out that positive energy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much again for being with us today on the podcast. I really appreciated talking with you. It's all fascinating information. We'll be sure to put the links to both of the websites so that people can get the information. And again, thank you.
You're welcome. Joy. My pleasure to speak with you today.
Okay, James, my mind is officially blown. That was a lot of crazy shit that Joy talked about.
Yeah, that's a lot to take in.
It was a lot of information. And she's got me really curious about this Serenity vibration healing technique. And I'm going to go check out her website. I am.
Yeah, and it's interesting. She's, yet another one of our guests that's talked about frequencies and vibrations. And we've talked about it, like how at Skinwalker Ranch. And we're going to have a show about this coming up. And aren't we going to have another guest?
We are. We're going to have a guest talking about vibrations. And, I don't really understand all the ins and outs of vibrations. But, you've been at a place and you've walked in, you'd be like, oh, I got a certain vibe. Or you could feel the energy in the room or stuff like that. So you know that it's true, right? Because people say it all the time.
And you think about, there are people who, will take your energy from you, They, just for some reason, or they, like you said, they carry a certain nervous energy. They walk in the room and the whole room kind of shifts, Or, it's true. There's something to this, And when we talk about it in our show, I think it's going to be pretty interesting. I'll be honest, Gal. I think it's, and this is just one of my crazy things, I think it's lost technology. I think at one point in our history, ancient history, we knew how to harness sound and vibrations. This is just my thing, but to me that helps explain some of these monoliths that were built. How do you move something that's hundreds of tons when you don't even have the wheel?
Right? You know what? And that's funny because I believe that it's probably lost technology, because you can look at all the work that Tesla did. And why did they go in and take his work, and what happened to it?
Right.
And he talked a lot about vibrations and energy and things like that, and being able to basically decode the universe.
Right, and people think he somehow tapped into the Akashic record.
Yeah, very interesting. So yes, very excited to continue our conversation about vibrations and frequencies. You can get at us, as always. We have email. That's crazy. Oh, you know it?
I know the email.
Go
That's
for it.
some crazy shit podcast at gmail.com.
Okay, Facebook.
KNJ's podcast at Facebook.
And now that you have Instagram,
I will be learning it shortly.
That's _ some crazy shit. And
at
then we
Instagram.
also, no, you don't have to say Instagram.
Sorry.
If you're on Instagram, it's that's _ some crazy shit. We're also on Twitter at that's some crazy shit. And that's the way that you connect with us on social media. We're actually thinking about doing a website. So we might have a website that we can give you as well. And you can always go to YouTube and check us out as well. That's some crazy shit. It's just the audio, not video. Well, maybe one day video, but today, no video.
Slow and steady
wins the race.
Yeah, we're in this for the long haul.
The long haul.
Yeah,
okay. I'm with you on that one. James, it's always a pleasure. Until next time. Until next time.
Keep your minds open. Sorry.
See ya.